Without a doubt, still far and away, it's the neglect. Not providing the appropriate shelter, not providing the calories for normal growth, not providing medical follow-up. There's roughly about 3.5 million reports every year involving about 6 million kids. And when they look into those, neglect is responsible for 70% of those, 75% of those. There's no doubt it's way too frequent. Way too frequent. It costs the United States something like $102, $112 billion a year to deal with child abuse and neglect for those kids.
Verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, it's people that you know, family members, close friends.
I think people just don't know what to do and they're scared.
It's also, you know, it's criminal acts.
About some people sort of not necessarily totally facilitating that situation, but maybe having an idea that that might be happening and ignoring it.
That attachment, I think, sometimes keeps people from going the next step and exposing them to the authorities.
If you don't tell somebody, you can't help the victim, and it could get worse, and they could get really oppressed and just hurt themselves. And
go somewhere and get some help and get a process started, because these things are not going to stop on their own. They're not just going to go away.
I know that in our community, I don't think they have any idea the amount of kids that we see here at the center. Because it's an ugly topic, you know, people don't want to know that this is happening.
I think this is not just sexually abused children that should be mentioned, but also in general the children that is neglected. I
was reminded of the scene in Parenthood where Keanu Reeves is talking with his mother-in-law about his father, and he says something to the gist of, you know, you have to get a driver's license to drive a car, but to let any idiot be a father.
People that dabble in that sort of behavior are, you know, they have a sickness.
And we have to educate not just the children, but also the parents of also the previous generation, how important younger generation form the new century, the new world.
You hear about the murders and the drive-bys and the burglaries, but people don't want to hear about the 500 some kids that were seen here because of sex abuse. And it's here.
The reason why people don't maybe tell or don't think it's a big deal if a child would get abused or something happens at a school is that it's so common now for our kids to see things that are sexualized in media, and they're used to seeing that, so they don't think, oh, this is important, I better tell mom that someone said this at school or someone did this to me at my club. And so I think part of it is just the exposure that kids get, and that parents allow that exposure either on the internet or on the TV shows that we see. A lot of parents are letting kids see rated R movies or PG-13 that they never should be seeing. So these kids are used to this and this sexualization in our society. And if you don't have kids being told, you can't watch, this is inappropriate, this is not okay. If something would happen to them with sexual abuse or even physical abuse, that they see the violence on TV, they don't think they have to tell, because this is common. This is what I see all the time. This is what's portrayed in society.
We pay for the cost of this. But more importantly, we could potentially save lives, and we can potentially save children from further injury or abuse if we will act on our feelings, on our gut feeling.
It's just human nature to, I feel, to be a concerning neighbor. Yeah, I know it's hard, but you have to get over that fear.
The part of like general lay people, people in the public, your next door neighbor, there's a lot of concern about filing a report, because, and I think it's the underlying theme that even physicians and many nurses and everybody else has. I don't know for sure that this child's being abused.
There are a lot of people who suspect stuff and are afraid to make the call. I think largely, again, that is a fear of the unexpected with the system.
Maybe it is embarrassing, but in their eyes, in your children's eyes, you've saved them. You've stopped the abuse.
Winnebago County alone last year, we had 578 referrals. Nationally, that usually totals in recent fiscal years over 6 million children across the country being abused.
It's pretty obvious that it's kind of running rampant out there.
A big problem, not just in the United States, but all over the world.
And they're not going to, they're by and large not going to seek help. They're going to try to subdue it, they're going to try to control it, but it's going to keep creeping out.
It might be difficult for people to accept the fact that their child might be being abused.
And I think of, for us as people of faith, that we understand that God is present most often and most deeply in those who are most vulnerable. And so as children, are the ones God is so deeply concerned about that we often forget about.
It's not fair to not tell, not just for the victim, but for the person with the sickness, because it's not getting them the help they need, and then it'll keep going and going and going.
And these kind of persons need to be, and I know it's a real slippery slope, but better that than to have kids, having to go through that experience at young ages. It stigmatizes you potentially for the rest of your life.
It hurts everybody involved then, and more people than you even know in the future.
It's set up to be a secret. So if we don't tell and we don't make the report, then we're just allowing the secret to continue and allowing the abuse to continue.
Somebody should have had a backbone to speak up for them kids.
When children do tell what's happened to them, they just want it to stop.